I never thought I would find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, sharing my story in hopes that it might resonate with someone out there. My name is Jake, and I'm a 36-year-old guy living in a small suburb of Chicago. I've been married to my wife, Amanda, for nearly a decade. We met in college and fell madly in love. At least, that's what I thought. Our relationship had its ups and downs like any marriage, but nothing could have prepared me for what was about to unfold. Lately, I started noticing subtle changes in Amanda. At first, they seemed innocuous. She was working longer hours at her job as a marketing executive, which I initially thought was just her ambition shining through. But then came the late-night texts that she was too busy to answer, the sudden interest in her appearance, and the odd little comments she'd throw my way about how she wanted to feel good about herself. I tried to brush it all off, telling myself that she was just going through a phase, maybe a midlife crisis or something. After all, we had 2 kids and life can get mundane. But things escalated quickly. One Friday night, I decided to surprise her with a nice dinner after I got off work early. I thought it would be a great way to reconnect. But when I got home, I was hit with an empty house. No Amanda, no kids, just the echo of silence. I checked my phone, she hadn't sent a single message. A wave of unease washed over me. I called her cell, but it went straight to voicemail. That's when I got a sinking feeling in my gut. A couple of hours later, she finally returned home, cheeks flushed and hair a little disheveled. When I asked where she had been, she spun some elaborate tale about being stuck at the office for an impromptu meeting with a client. She even had a few photos on her phone from a team dinner. But something didn't add up. I could see it in her eyes. There was a flicker of guilt beneath her charming smile, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. The next week, while I was cleaning the house, I stumbled upon her old laptop. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it up. It felt wrong, but I was desperate to find answers. As I logged in, I saw a series of messages from a guy named Ethan, a male model she had mentioned a few times as a friend from her work events. The texts were flirty and undeniably intimate. My heart raced as I read through their exchanges, which included plans to meet up and even references to how she missed his touch. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. Now I was at a crossroads. I could confront her right away, but I wanted to think this through. I needed to know more, so I began to devise a plan. I'd catch her in the act and then confront her with irrefutable evidence. I couldn't let her wiggle out of this one with her usual lies about just being friends. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, anger, heartbreak, and a bizarre sense of determination. I felt like I had been thrown into a game and I was ready to play. I started to observe her more closely. I took note of her routines, the little changes in her behavior. What I discovered over the next few weeks only fueled the fire inside me. She'd come home smelling different. There were inexplicable late-night outings, and a newfound confidence in her demeanor that I hadn't seen in years. I had to prepare myself for the confrontation, and I needed to gather more evidence. I wanted to ensure that when I confronted her, she wouldn't have the opportunity to twist the narrative in her favor. The emotional toll of this situation began to weigh heavily on me. I felt like a fool, questioning every moment we had shared together, every laugh that had once felt genuine. The woman I thought I knew had been replaced by someone I no longer recognized. The days dragged on, and I was a man on a mission. I was no longer the loving husband. I was determined to uncover the truth. I knew this wouldn't end well, but I had to do it. I had to confront her, and soon I would have my chance. The stage was set, and I was ready for the showdown. I didn't realize it yet, but this was only the beginning of a journey that would change everything about me and my life moving forward. Part 1 of 6. The days turned into weeks, and every moment felt like a ticking clock, counting down to the inevitable confrontation. I was living in a state of heightened anxiety. It was as if I was walking on eggshells in my own home. I kept replaying those messages in my mind, the warmth of her laughter that felt like a dagger now. I couldn't understand how someone I loved so deeply could betray me so casually. One Friday night, I decided to put my plan into action. I had set up a little scheme that I hoped would catch Amanda off guard. I had to ensure I had the evidence I needed to confront her without any chance for her to backtrack or deny everything. I told her I was going out with some friends for a few drinks, which was partially true. I grabbed my phone and headed to a bar down the street, but not to socialize. My real plan was to wait until I was sure she would be out late. As I sat in the dimly lit bar, nursing a drink, I felt a mix of excitement and dread. I waited for her to leave the house. My stomach churned as I envisioned her wrapped up in the arms of Ethan, the model who had captured her interest. I couldn't let that happen, so I sat there, scrolling through my phone, keeping an eye on the time. I wanted her to be comfortable enough to let her guard down. I parked myself at a table near the entrance, keeping my eyes peeled for my wife's car. It was a little past 9 when I finally saw her pull into the driveway. My heart raced as I finished my drink and slipped out the back entrance, trying to remain unseen. I circled back to our neighborhood and parked a couple of houses away, waiting for her to make her move. Sure enough, after about 20 minutes, I saw her walking toward the door of our home. I had done my homework. I knew what time Ethan usually finished his modeling gigs. As the clock ticked closer to 10, I felt the weight of my plan pressing down on me. Then it happened. My phone buzzed with a text notification. It was a message from her. "I'm going to be out late tonight, don't wait up, love." My blood boiled. I knew this was my chance to catch her in the act. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. I decided to drive to a nearby parking lot where I could see the entrance of our house without being too obvious. I had my phone ready to record, waiting for the moment when Ethan would show up. I didn't have to wait long. Just after 11, I saw the sleek black car pull up, and my heart sank as I recognized it as Ethan's. I felt a storm of emotions raging inside me, rage, sadness, and betrayal all swirling together. I watched as they embraced in front of our home, the same arms that had once held me in love now wrapping around someone else. I felt sick. Anger ignited within me, and every ounce of self-control I had been holding onto began to slip away. I grabbed my phone and hit record, capturing their interaction. I wanted irrefutable evidence of her infidelity, the kind that she couldn't twist into justifications or lies. My hands shook as I witnessed the way she smiled at him, her eyes sparkling in a way I hadn't seen in years. They walked inside and I felt a rage boiling up that I had never experienced before. After what felt like an eternity, I decided to confront her. I drove back home, parked in the garage, and waited. I wanted to give them just enough time to settle in. I couldn't believe I was about to confront my wife while I was still a mess of emotions. But I had to do it. I had to have answers. At around 1 in the morning, I heard them. Laughter and whispers drifted through the house. I gripped the door handle tightly, knowing that the moment of truth was finally here. I swung the door open, my heart pounding in my chest. The sight before me was one I will never forget. There she was, Amanda with Ethan, both caught in a moment that shattered my heart into pieces. "What the hell is going on here?" I shouted, my voice echoing through the entryway. Amanda jumped back, her face a mask of shock and horror. Ethan's expression was one of confusion, and he quickly stepped back, hands raised as if he was trying to defuse a bomb. "Jake, I can explain," Amanda started, but I cut her off. "Explain what? You're here with him in our home. What can you possibly say that will make this okay?" My voice trembled with barely contained fury. I could see her scrambling for words, her mind racing as she tried to come up with excuses. I thought you were out. I thought I had more time." She stammered, the confidence she had shown with him instantly evaporating. "What time? What the hell does that even mean?" I shot back. "You planned this, didn't you? This was intentional. You've been lying to me for months." The confrontation escalated, and every hurtful word she uttered felt like a knife to my heart. Her excuses were weak, filled with vague promises of a midlife crisis and needing to feel wanted. All I could think about was how much I had given to our marriage, how I had always been there for her, and how she had thrown it all away for a fling with someone who was nothing but a pretty face. "Jake, please. I didn't mean to hurt you. I swear it was a mistake," she pleaded, but I was too far gone. I couldn't listen to it anymore. "Tell me, Amanda," I demanded, anger mixing with sadness. "Is it worth it? Is he worth throwing away everything we built together?" She didn't answer at first, her silence speaking volumes. The realization hit me then. She didn't see the value in what we had anymore. The walls I had built around my heart began to crumble, and it became clear that this was the end of something I thought would last forever. The emotional impact weighed heavy on my soul as I stood there, looking at the two people who had betrayed me. I felt angry, heartbroken, and lost all at once. I had to make a choice. In that moment, I realized I had a decision to make. I could either fight to salvage what was left of our marriage or take the painful step toward ending it and starting anew. But either way, the road ahead was going to be tough, and I was about to step into the unknown. Part 2 of 6. The air in the room was thick with tension. I stood there, heart racing, trying to process everything that had just unfolded. Amanda's eyes darted between me and Ethan, who was still standing awkwardly by the door, clearly unsure whether to flee or try to smooth things over. I could feel the hurt boiling inside me, and I knew I had to channel that energy into something productive, something that would help me regain control of my life. "Jake, please," Amanda said again, her voice shaky. "I was wrong. I don't know what happened. I've been feeling so lost, and when I met Ethan, it felt different." "Different?" I echoed, incredulous. "You think this is about feeling different? This is about betrayal. You threw away everything we've built because you felt a little lost. That's not an excuse, Amanda. That's a coward's way out." I could see her trying to piece together some semblance of an apology, but I wasn't interested in her explanations anymore. I was done listening. The love I once had for her was being overtaken by a sense of betrayal that felt insurmountable. I had trusted her completely, and she had shattered that trust in the most painful way possible. "Maybe I should have noticed the signs sooner," I said, my voice steadying. "You started changing, acting like I didn't matter anymore. I see now that it was all leading to this moment." I pointed to Ethan, who was still hanging around, looking unsure of what to do. "You think he's going to treat you any better than I have? This is a fling, Amanda. You know that. You're just another notch in his belt." Ethan shifted uncomfortably, and I could feel the anger radiating from him, but I didn't care. This wasn't about him. This was about Amanda's betrayal, the way she had chosen someone else over the life we had built together. The thought of it made me nauseous. "Jake, I messed up," Amanda pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "I'll do anything to fix this. Just give me another chance." "Another chance?" I laughed bitterly, the sound echoing in the stark silence of our living room. "You think you deserve another chance after everything? You had a choice, Amanda. You chose to cheat. You chose to betray our family." At that moment, I felt a surge of clarity. I was done being the victim in this situation. I was done accepting her hollow apologies and promises of change. I realized that I didn't just want to confront her, I wanted to reclaim my life. "Here's the deal. I'm not going to be the emotional punching bag for your insecurities, and I won't stand by while you throw our marriage away for someone else. I deserve better than that." I turned to Ethan, who was still lurking in the background. "And you can leave. Now, before I really lose my temper." Ethan hesitated, looking between us, but I could tell he sensed the storm brewing inside me. He slowly backed away, not wanting to provoke me any further. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble," he said quietly, backing out the door. Once he was gone, I turned my full attention back to Amanda. "I can't do this anymore, Amanda. You've made your choice, and now I have to make mine." "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice a whisper, filled with disbelief. "I mean it's time for us to separate. Clearly, you're not happy with me, and I can't live like this. It's toxic for both of us." Her face fell, and I could see a flicker of fear in her eyes. "You can't be serious. We can work through this. Please, let's talk about it." "Talk about what?" I shot back. "What's left to talk about? You've shattered my trust. I can't just pretend this didn't happen. It's not something we can talk through. You've made it clear you don't want to be married to me. I deserve a partner who values our relationship, not someone who seeks validation from others." As the words left my mouth, I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. It was as if the weight of the world was lifting from my shoulders. It was painful, no doubt, but I was finally asserting myself, taking back control of my life. I could see the realization sink in for Amanda, and it was heartbreaking to watch. "No, Jake," she whimpered, tears streaming down her face. "I love you. I've always loved you. I made a mistake." "Love doesn't cause you to cheat," I replied, my voice steady. You don't get to decide when you want to love me. You had your chance. I felt a surge of emotions, all the anger and sadness boiling down to a single truth. I was done. The woman I loved had made a choice, and now I had to make mine. I would no longer be the man who accepted betrayal with open arms. In that moment, I realized that this was my turning point. I was going to embark on a journey of self-improvement. I didn't want to just be the guy who was betrayed. I wanted to become the best version of myself. I wanted to build a better life, not just for me, but for my kids. I had to show them that resilience matters, that even in the face of heartbreak, you can rise from the ashes. With that thought in mind, I walked out of the room, leaving Amanda there, tears streaming down her face. I had made my decision, and it was time to embrace the next chapter of my life, even if it was going to be full of challenges. Part 3 of 6. The days that followed were a whirlwind. After that tumultuous confrontation, I found myself grappling with a mix of emotions. I had made the decision to separate from Amanda, but the reality of it was setting in, and it felt surreal. Walking through the house was like wandering through a ghost town, filled with echoes of laughter and memories of better times that now felt tainted by betrayal. I often sat in the living room, staring at the walls that had once felt like a sanctuary. It was hard to believe that just a few weeks ago, I was living a life that I thought was solid and secure. Now I was left piecing together the remnants of a shattered marriage. I needed a plan, a way to channel all this pain into something productive, something that would allow me to rebuild my life, not just for myself but for my two kids, Lily and Max. I started by focusing on my health and fitness. I had always been the kind of guy who hit the gym sporadically, but now I was determined to make it a priority. I hired a personal trainer, someone who would hold me accountable, and I dove into a rigorous workout schedule. I was lifting weights, running, and eating clean. Each drop of sweat felt like a release, washing away the pain and anger. I found solace in the challenge, and the results were quickly apparent. Simultaneously, I began to reassess my career. I worked in graphic design, a job I had settled into, but I realized I needed more fulfillment in my life. I started taking on side projects, expanding my portfolio, and networking with others in the industry. I wanted to create a life that I felt proud of, a life that reflected who I truly was, someone who wouldn't settle for mediocrity. In the midst of all this self-improvement, I was also navigating co-parenting with Amanda. It was a delicate dance. While she expressed her remorse, I was wary of her words. I had to protect my kids from the fallout of our broken marriage, but I also needed to establish boundaries. We agreed on a weekly schedule to split time with them, and I made it clear that I would prioritize their well-being above all else. One evening, as I was putting the kids to bed, Lily asked me, "Dad, why aren't you and Mom together anymore?" Her innocent question struck a chord deep within me. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. Sometimes people grow apart, and that's okay. It doesn't mean we don't love you. We both do very much. She nodded, her little brow furrowed in thought, and for a moment I saw a glimmer of understanding in her eyes. I couldn't shield them from everything, but I could show them how to handle adversity with grace and resilience. As the weeks turned into months, I continued to work on myself, physically, emotionally, and even socially. I began reconnecting with friends and making new ones. I explored hobbies I had long neglected, like photography and hiking. I felt alive again, and each step forward was a testament to my strength. My body transformed, but more importantly, so did my mindset. Each day was an opportunity to grow, to redefine who I was outside of my marriage. Then came the moment I had dreaded and anticipated. Amanda asked to meet up for coffee. It was a neutral ground, a public place. I felt a mix of apprehension and curiosity. I agreed, knowing that this was part of navigating our new reality. I arrived at the cafe, heart racing, wondering what she would say. When I saw her, I noticed a change. She looked different, more put together, healthier even, but there was an air of uncertainty about her as we sat down. "Jake, I've been doing a lot of thinking," she began, her voice shaky. "I've realized how much I hurt you, and I want to apologize. I've started seeing a therapist and I'm trying to understand why I made those choices. I listened, my feelings a jumble of skepticism and cautious optimism. I appreciate that, Amanda, but it doesn't change what happened. I can't undo the past. I know, she replied, tears welling in her eyes, but I want to work on co-parenting better and I want to be a better person. I miss the family we had. Her words hung in the air and I had to remind myself to stay grounded. I understand that, but this isn't about going back to what we had. We can't go back. I've moved forward and I want to focus on being the best dad I can be for our kids. We talked for a while longer, sharing our thoughts on co-parenting and how we could make it work for the sake of Lily and Max. While a part of me wanted to believe in her desire for change, I was wary. I had come too far to let myself be swept back into the emotional turmoil. As I left the cafe, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. I realized that while our marriage was over, the healing process was just beginning. I was ready to embrace the future, one filled with possibilities and new adventures. Amanda's journey to self-improvement was her own, but I was set on my path. I began to plan a weekend trip with the kids, something fun to bond over and create new memories. I wanted them to see that even in the wake of heartbreak, life could still be beautiful. We all deserved happiness, and I was determined to find it, for their sake and for my own. Part 4 of 6. The transition into this new phase of life was like walking a tightrope. I was filled with hope for the future, but there were still moments of uncertainty. As I embarked on my journey of self-improvement, I began to encounter new challenges, not just with Amanda but within myself. One Saturday morning, I took the kids to a local park for a picnic. It was a sunny day, perfect for laughter and bonding. As we spread out our blanket, I watched Lily and Max chase each other, laughter ringing through the air like music. In those moments, I felt a flicker of joy that I hadn't felt in a long time. I was reminded of the simple pleasures in life, the ones that truly mattered. But as the picnic progressed, I noticed Amanda lurking at the edge of the park. She was there with a friend, but her eyes were fixed on us, watching every interaction. I felt an uncomfortable tension building in my chest. I had hoped she would give me space to establish my new life, but here she was, a constant reminder of the past that I was trying to leave behind. As the day wore on, she approached us, her demeanor friendly but cautious. "Hey, I didn't know you'd be here. I thought I'd bring the kids some ice cream," she said, forcing a smile. "Sure, that sounds great," I replied, trying to keep the atmosphere light for the kids. But inside, I felt a storm brewing. I had no desire to navigate these awkward encounters, but I also didn't want to deny our kids the chance to enjoy some time together as a family. When she returned with the ice cream, she sat down on the blanket and we attempted to make small talk, discussing the kids' upcoming school events and their interests. It felt strained, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was seeking something more. "Jake, I know it's been tough for both of us," she said, her voice tentative. "But I really want to try and be friends. We need to figure this out for the kids." I glanced at her, searching for sincerity. "Amanda, I appreciate that you want to make this work for them, but I need space. I'm still healing and I can't step back into a friendship with you right now. It's too fresh and I'm still processing everything that happened." Her expression faltered, but she nodded, understanding that I was drawing a line. As she left with a sad smile, I felt a pang of guilt. I didn't want her to suffer, but I also couldn't allow her to disrupt the progress I was making. I had to focus on becoming the best version of myself for my kids. That night, after tucking Lily and Max into bed, I sat in the living room with a notebook, jotting down my goals and aspirations. I wanted to build a life that I could be proud of, filled with experiences, growth, and happiness. As I wrote, I could feel a sense of clarity washing over me. I vowed to work not only on my physical health but also on my emotional well-being. I signed up for a local community center's weekend workshops, everything from cooking classes to creative writing. I wanted to explore new facets of myself, to find joy in unexpected places. It felt liberating to say yes to new experiences, to step outside my comfort zone. One Saturday, I attended a cooking workshop where I learned to prepare dishes I had never dreamed of making. It was exhilarating to chop vegetables, saute meats, and mix flavors together. I found myself laughing and connecting with others who were also there to learn. It was a refreshing change from the heaviness I had been dragging around. Little by little, the pieces of my life began to fall into place. I started to feel comfortable in my skin again, embracing the changes that were unfolding. I built new friendships and even began to contemplate dating. It was a daunting prospect, but I knew I had to open my heart again eventually. But just as I was starting to feel confident in my new routine, I received an unexpected call from Amanda. It was late one evening and I hesitated before answering. "Jake, can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Sure," I replied, trying to gauge her tone. "What's up?" "I've been seeing my therapist and I've come to realize a lot about myself. I've been selfish and too focused on my own issues," she confessed. "I want to sincerely apologize for how I treated you. I know I hurt you and I'm so sorry for that. I want to be better, not just as a co-parent but also as a person." I listened carefully, my emotions swirling. Part of me wanted to embrace her newfound awareness, but another part was still guarded. "I appreciate you saying that, Amanda. I do think it's important for us to be honest with each other, especially for the kids. I know things can't go back to how they were and I don't want them to," she continued. "But I'd like us to find a way to communicate better. Can we do that?" It was a bold request and I could feel my walls shifting slightly. "I think we can work on that, but it's going to take time for me to fully trust you again." "I understand," she replied, her voice earnest. "I just wanted to reach out and let you know I'm committed to doing the work." As we spoke, I felt a cautious spark of hope. It was as though she was finally beginning to understand the magnitude of her actions and the impact they had on our family dynamic. I knew there would be hurdles to overcome, but I also realized that healing was a two-way street. We agreed to meet weekly to discuss co-parenting strategies and to keep the lines of communication open. It felt like a small step, but it was one I was willing to take for the sake of our children. Days turned into weeks, and with each meeting I noticed subtle changes in our interactions. While the past still loomed heavy, there was a glimmer of possibility that things could improve. I was learning how to navigate this new reality, focusing on building a future that was bright and hopeful. As I reflected on my journey, I felt a sense of pride in how far I had come. I had transformed heartbreak into strength, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next. Part 5 of 6. As the weeks progressed, I found myself settling into a new rhythm both as a father and as an individual. The interactions with Amanda began to feel less like a chore and more like a collaborative effort toward a shared goal, raising our children in a healthy environment. While the remnants of our past still lingered, I could feel the weight of resentment slowly lifting. One day, as I was picking up Lily and Max from school, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. The sun was shining, and the kids were excitedly chatting about their day, their laughter filling the car. In those moments, it became clear to me that my priority was their happiness. They deserved to grow up surrounded by love and support, even if it came from two separate homes. But I also knew that I needed to focus on my own happiness. With that in mind, I decided to give dating a try. It felt daunting, but I had spent enough time reestablishing my sense of self to know that I was ready to open my heart again. I created a profile on a dating app, cautiously optimistic about what might come next. My first few dates were mixed. Some were fun and others were awkward, but I took it all in stride. It was refreshing to connect with new people, to share laughs and stories that didn't revolve around the pain of my past. I was learning to embrace the present and keep moving forward. Months passed, and I found myself on a date with a woman named Sarah. We clicked right away, and I was surprised at how easy the conversation flowed. She was kind, witty, and brought a lightness that I hadn't felt in years. As we spent more time together, I realized that I was rediscovering parts of myself that I thought had been lost forever. One evening, we went to a local art gallery opening, and as we wandered through the exhibit, I felt a sense of excitement bubbling within me. I had come so far from the heartbreak of my marriage, and now I was standing in a place where I could envision a future again. Sarah's laughter rang in my ears, and I felt hopeful. As our relationship blossomed, I maintained open communication with Amanda about my dating life. I was determined to set a positive example for the kids, to show them that love could exist beyond the confines of marriage. I wanted them to see that even in the aftermath of pain, you could find joy again. One weekend, I invited Amanda to join us for a family outing to the zoo with the kids. I wanted to show that we could coexist peacefully for their sake. We spent the day laughing and enjoying the time together. It was a reminder that despite everything that had happened, we could still share moments as a family. Later that evening, as I tucked the kids into bed, I felt a sense of calmness wash over me. I knew that while the road ahead would not always be easy, I had taken significant strides toward healing. I was no longer the man defined by betrayal. I was a father, a friend, and a man learning to love again. As I lay in bed that night, my mind drifted to everything I had experienced: the heartbreak, the anger, the painful moments of confrontation, and ultimately, the growth that followed. I reflected on how I had transformed my life through self-improvement, through learning to prioritize my own happiness and well-being. I had learned that strength doesn't come from never falling but from getting back up after every fall. I had learned that true resilience is about embracing the journey, no matter how challenging it may be. And most importantly, I had learned that love is not confined to a single definition. It can evolve, adapt, and take new forms. With a newfound sense of purpose, I was ready to face the future head-on, embracing whatever it may bring. The lessons of the past no longer haunted me. They had shaped me into the person I was today, stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a profound sense of peace. Life was full of possibilities, and I was ready to explore them all one step at a time. This was my new beginning. Part 6 of 6.